One question I've been getting recently is whether you can sell both digital download products and physical print on demand products in the same Etsy shop. You absolutely can do it, and in this video, I'm going to walk through how to create both a digital download listing and a print on demand physical product listing in your Etsy shop for the same design. All right, before we start in this process, I want to point out that along the way, at almost every step, you have a lot of options for how you want to do things, and there's no way I could go into all of the options you have at each step in one video and keep it a reasonable length. So we're going to go through the basics of what you need to do to create your digital download listing and your physical print-on-demand listing, but just know that there are a lot of steps along the way here where you have multiple different ways that you could do this. However, before we jump in, I do want to point out a couple things that you don't really have a whole lot of control over, and that is how you create the listings on Etsy. So on Etsy, they distinguish between physical and digital products. You can only make one selection per listing, so that means in one listing, you cannot sell both digital and physical products. All right, so they have to be separate listings, but that doesn't mean you can't sell them in the same Etsy shop. If you want to sell a design that you created as a digital download available for somebody to print at home, as well as a physical product that will be shipped to them, that is totally fine. You can absolutely do that within the same Etsy shop. All right, so let's jump in and start talking about creating the digital listing first, then we'll do the physical product listing using Printify. The first thing you need, of course, is an actual file that's going to be what the customer receives when they purchase. Now, one important thing to keep in mind as you are creating or exporting your final, print files basically for this is that because we're doing both, because we're intending to sell this as a digital download and a physical printed file, you want to make sure that you get the right file types that you're going to need in the right sizes. And this is the first of many steps along the way where you have lots of options for how you can do this. But what I like to do is I like to keep things as simple as possible for myself. So for the digital download listing, I offer it in one size in one aspect ratio. So a 2:3 aspect ratio, which means sizes like 24 by 36 and then a few smaller sizes than that. Basically, the customer can print that file in any size they want. That's a 2:3 aspect ratio, anything up to the maximum size that your file allows. So we're pretending that this is the design that I'm going to offer as a digital download and a printed poster. So I'm using Kittl right now. This is an online design tool that I use for print-on-demand designs of all different types because they make it really easy, especially when you're exporting your files. They make it super easy for you. But whatever software you use, when you export your print file, you might need to export it in a couple different formats or a couple different sizes. It just depends on what you want the customer to be able to do with the print file compared to what you want to do with the physical product listing. So what I mean is if you want the customer to be able to print up to the same maximum size that you're going to offer on your physical products, then you only need one file. So for example, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with a maximum size of 24 by 36. So when I download this on Kittl, I can put in the exact dimensions that I want my exported file to be, 24 by 36, 300 dpi, which is also important. We want to make sure we get the good quality. And it's allowing me to select whether I want PNG, JPEG, PDF, or SVG. Now, because I'm going to have these be the same, I only really need to get one file here. Chances are JPEG is going to be the way I'm going to go because that's probably going to be the smallest file size. SVG is also a good file type to work with for your physical product, especially on Printify, because you can scale it to any size you need without losing quality. However, Printify only allows SVGs up to 20 megabytes, so some of these files are going to get to be too big. Unfortunately, you're not going to know until you export the file whether it's going to be too big or not. So personally, what I like to do is just download it as an SVG first. If it's over 20 megs, I just delete it and then download the JPEG, and chances are it'll be smaller. Also, I'm going to grab a PDF of this file because that's what I want to use for my digital download file. So let me just mention one of the options you have at this step. I needed to get this 24 by 36 because I want to offer that size, up to that size, for the physical product that we're going to do. However, if you don't want the customer to be able to print a file that big, if you want to limit the digital download to a smaller size, you can just change the export size and download it in a smaller size. So you can do that. And doing it that way would help ensure that the file size is going to be small enough that you can just upload it directly to Etsy without having to use any offsite storage. So that is another option that you have. All right, so I've got a PDF and a JPEG of this print file. So now I can go ahead and let's move on and create the digital download listing. All right, so in my Etsy shop listings page, I'm going to need to add a listing. Now, this is one thing that I personally recommend creating yourself a template for, because if you're going to do this a lot, it can save you some time. So I am in my drafts folder, which you can see over on the right side of the page here. Once you're on your listings page, just go to the right if you've done this already, and then find your draft section and select that. So over here, you can see I've got a draft for digital printable template. So if I open that, basically this is just a draft of a listing for a digital download that's already got some of the things in it that I know it's going to need. However, you can always just copy an existing listing that you have a live listing and then create a new listing from that as well. So you don't need to use a template. It's just something I like to do. Or you can start from scratch each time. I also want to mention this is the 2023 updated Etsy listing workflow. If your shop doesn't have it yet, don't worry, you will soon. The listing process here is going to have a lot of things in common with a physical product. So of course we start with a title. So go ahead and put in the title of your listing. This is where you would still want to do research, just like you would if we were only making print-on-demand listings. Same thing applies here. So do some research on Etsy. You can use a keyword tool like Sales Samurai or eRank. All right, so for the example, I'm just putting that in there so we can move on, but you would want to do your research on that. Now for photos and video, of course, this is where you're going to want to upload a sample image of your digital download. Now, if you're already a seller of print-on-demand products, this is probably not something you would normally worry about, but I do want to mention, I would recommend including some type of a watermark in your mock-up image of the design itself. Of course, the mock-up image that Etsy is going to allow here isn't going to be high enough quality to really get a good quality print out of anyway, but I would still probably include some type of a watermark. But I also would recommend uploading mock-ups of your design in context. So if you intend this to be a printable, like a wall hanging, basically like a poster or a piece of artwork, then go ahead and find some mock-ups where you can place it actually in a photo frame or in a poster frame or something like that in context. Of course, you don't want to make it look like you're advertising it as a physical product, but you want to give the customer an idea of what it could look like in their home. Now, Kittl actually already has a mockup tool built in. Canva also has templates you can use for mockups if you use Canva, but here's a great example of like what you would use as a primary thumbnail mockup. It wouldn't hurt to add a little bit of text to it or something like that somewhere just so you can make it clear. So there we go. I'm going to download this mockup and we'll use this one. And here's just an example of something I recommend you create using a tool like Canva. I used Canva for this one. And this is something I recommend you upload to all of your digital download listings. So if you do create a template for the listing, this would be a good example of something you can just put it in the template. That way you don't have to upload it every time. Basically, you just want to tell the customer what they're getting and make it clear to them what's included with their purchase. We're going to put this in the description too, but this is stuff that we really want to make sure that they see at least in one place or the other. All right, so I've uploaded 2 photos for this one. Of course, if you have additional mock-ups, you would want to do that. Anything else that you want to upload, you can. All right, now the digital file is the next section as we scroll underneath. And this is the difference between a physical product and a digital product listing on Etsy. With a physical product, we don't have this section to complete. What we need to do here is upload our files. Now, we can upload up to 5 files, so you may not need to go with offsite storage if you're offering 5 or less and they're not over the storage limit for Etsy. But if you need to upload more than 5 files, or if they are too large for Etsy's maximum storage here, that's where you would need to go with offsite storage and basically just upload a link to where it is. And that's actually what I'm going to do in this case, because when I click add a file, if I try to upload the butterfly print PDF that I wanted to, it unfortunately is too big. So basically all I had to do was upload my PDF file to Dropbox, get the link to the file, and then embed that link into a Word document here. Now, if you do this a lot, where you need to store a lot of files off-site, you're probably going to wind up needing to pay for that off-site storage. It might be a reason why for digital downloads, maybe you want to keep the maximum size a little bit smaller so that you don't have to go with off-site storage. But that is how you would do it if you ran into that problem. All right, getting to the listing description, I have a whole bunch of information in here already, again, because this is a template that I copy and reuse whenever I create a digital download. Basically, what you want to do is make some room at the top. At the top, you want to describe what this actual design is. So you would put your description just like you would describe any other product at the top. And then in the rest of the description is where I like to keep this same information, and I just make tweaks to it depending on the specifics of the file that they're going to receive. So it always helps to remind the customer and indicate this is a digital download only. They're not going to receive a physical product. A description of what they're going to receive, which is basically the same information we put in that image, except here I've also listed the different print file sizes. So basically this is a 2:3 aspect ratio file. You can print in all of these sizes, all the way from 4x6 up to 24x36. And then just some very basic information listing out how the process works, examples of where you can go get it printed. And then of course at the bottom, a little disclaimer about color variation or print quality, because this is one of those products that even though the process of selling it is passive once we create this, you could have people messaging you with, it didn't look good and they're just trying to print it at some wacky size that it doesn't work. It could come out differently than they expect, so it never hurts to have those types of disclaimers in there. All right, if you don't offer personalization on the design, you can skip over personalization, but just know that is an option. Even if you sell digital downloads, if you want to personalize the design for the customer, you can make that an option. And if you do that, it's not an instantaneous download when they make a purchase. If the customer puts in a personalization, it gives you the opportunity to then go in and upload their customized print file afterward. But that is another step that you would have to complete. Okay, price and inventory. So price is basically going to be entirely up to you. All you really need to do is take a look at the competition in the niches for the designs that you create, see what similar types of designs are going for, see what the competition is pricing them at. I'm listing this one at $2.99. Keep in mind, this is 100% profit. Now, all of these listings technically had the overhead cost of whatever time it took you to create the design and create the listing, because your time is money, of course. But in terms of cost of product fulfillment, like there is with print on demand, there is no cost. So every time you charge somebody $2.99, Etsy still, of course, takes their cut with Etsy fees. And you can use an Etsy calculator to determine what those fees are going to be. I will link to one in the description. But basically, other than the Etsy fees, all of what you receive is profit because you don't have to go pay for order fulfillment. For quantity, this is something that is up to you with digital downloads. Generally, I always just set the maximum, which is $9.99, so that it can keep reselling, because the quantity is what controls whether it gets relisted for sale after each sale that it makes. So the quantity will just count down and it'll keep relisting until it gets to zero. However, if you create designs and let's say part of your brand strategy is to create limited edition designs, you could use the quantity here to actually control that. Like let's say on your social media for your business, you go and post, hey, I'm only offering 100 of these. Like only 100 people will get the chance to purchase this design. Then you would set the quantity accordingly if you're doing limited edition designs. All right, variations is a section we don't have to complete because variations don't exist for digital products. Now, when it comes down to the details section, here is where, if you hadn't already, you will choose between physical and digital. And this is in the core details section that you have to click on to open. Physical or digital, of course, this listing is digital. We can only select one. When you say who made it, you can select I did if you created the design, of course. And what it is a finished product. And when was it made? These are not made to order like print-on-demand products are. It is a finished product that is done. So basically just enter the year that you made it. So if it's current, it's just going to be entered as 2020 to 2023, and there you go. So you would click apply at the bottom there when you're done filling all those details out. Under category, this is where what I've been selecting for these types of digital downloads is digital prints. So that's a subcategory under art and collectibles and prints. Digital prints is its own category there. Now, under attributes, this is something we actually don't really need to complete a whole lot of. You can fill in some of these things, like if it's a vertical orientation for the design, you can select that. There's more attributes you can expand there, but there's really not a ton that you absolutely need to fill out. Now, under tags, this is, of course, where you want to definitely put in all 13 of your tags. So this is where doing that keyword research comes into play. All the different types of phrases that people might search for to find your design. For this example, it was a butterfly poster print design. We definitely would want to put in all of the relevant combinations of those keywords in here in our tags. Of course, for shipping, there's nothing to do here because this is a digital download file. So we can skip over shipping. Now, under settings, we cannot accept returns or exchanges for digital downloads. Etsy, pretty much, they don't allow us to do anything else with digital, so we don't have to worry about that. Under shop section, if you want to create a shop section for all of your digital downloads, you can, and then put all of these listings in that section, and then put all of your other products in other sections. I personally like to use shop sections. but it's up to you. All right, you have options here to either feature the listing at the top of your home page for your shop, as well as to use Etsy ads for this listing. And then the last option is to choose the renewal options, manual or automatic. I've talked about this many times in my other videos, why I like to use manual, because if you use automatic, then if this listing does not sell, if it never sells and 4 months go by, Etsy will automatically renew the listing and charge you 20 cents again on a listing that never made a sale. This option here has nothing to do with whether your listing renews after a sale. Remember, that is what quantity controls, not this option here. So I like to choose manual because if it hasn't sold for 4 months, probably a reason why it didn't sell for 4 months. And I don't just automatically want to pay another 20 cents to relist it. All right, and that's it. We're at the bottom of the listing. We can go ahead and publish this in the bottom right corner, probably right behind me. There is a publish with changes or publish button right behind me. That's what we want to click on if you are done. If you're not done, if you need to still go get mockups, or if you need to do something to change the print file before you upload it, then just hit save draft and it will keep this as a separate draft for you. You can come back and publish it later. But assuming that you're done, go ahead and publish this listing. Now, when you make a sale of this, the good news is you don't have to do anything because Etsy will automatically provide the download link for the customer after they complete checkout to the file that you've uploaded. And that's it. It automatically relists if you set your quantity to greater than 1 and just keep selling. It is truly passive. Once you make a digital listing, you're good to go. But we wanted to sell this same design on a physical product as well. So let's go to Printify and see how to do that. Now, Printify has a few different options for posters and framed posters, canvas, all of that kind of stuff. But Printify is also not the only print-on-demand platform out there. Of course, there's Printful, there's Gelato. There are a bunch of different ones. So I have links to all of those in the description if you want to check any of them out if you haven't decided who you're using yet. I personally use Printify for the vast majority. Once you have an account with your print-on-demand platform like Printify and you've done the connecting of your accounts, you're ready to actually create that product listing. So I'm going to sort of just pretend for this example that what I want to do is a regular matte vertical poster. And there's, like I mentioned, there's a bunch of options here on Printify. And so we're just going to click on that product and find the Start Designing link here. Now, the first thing to do, of course, is to upload our design. Now, I did download this as an SVG, but it turned out to be over 20 megabytes. So I had to download it as a JPEG file instead. And so the JPEG is what I'm going to upload here to Printify by just selecting my device here. We'll upload that. All right, so it's uploaded my JPEG file. And remember, I downloaded it at the biggest size that I wanted to offer, which was 24 by 36. So it's actually automatically given me the 24 by 36 option here. But in the top right corner, this is where you want to indicate which other sizes you want to sell. So if I hit that little drop-down arrow, here are all the sizes they offer for the matte posters. Basically, you just want to select whatever ones you want. However, some of these are not the same aspect ratio as my design. So it doesn't hurt anything if you just select a few different ones here to see which ones actually fit the best. All right, so 12 by 18, 20 by 30, 24 by 36. I think 3 is enough options for a poster listing. I don't think you don't need to offer all of them. Now with posters, as long as your file's the right aspect ratio and the right size, there's really not much else you need to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and select preview at the top here. This is where it's going to show us our mockups, and Printify for posters offers you some pretty decent mockups to use. So we can still use that extra one that we made as well, but this is what Printify is offering. So in the bottom right corner behind my head, there's a big green Save Product button, so click on that. All right, now this is going to take us to complete the rest of our listing on Printify so we can publish it to our Etsy account. Here at the top, we can select which mockups we want. Now here we want to go ahead and put in our title and our description. This is going to get pushed through to Etsy. We can, of course, edit it right on Etsy, but since it's going to get published from here, we might as well put it in here. Now, it's important to point out that your keyword phrases for your title and then your tags, which your tags you need to do on Etsy, you don't actually do those here. For your title and your tags, you're probably going to be using a lot of similar keywords about like the describing of what the design is, but make sure that you differentiate things like poster print. I would use that term in this listing. I would not use that term in the digital download listing. For the digital listing, we're looking to use words like printable, digital. That's how you're going to differentiate between the titles and the tags of the two listings. All right, shipping profile. Shipping profiles are a whole thing on Etsy. They are a subject that we could talk for a very long time about, depending on what your strategy is and what countries you want to sell in. I actually have a playlist of videos all about shipping on Etsy. I also recently released a video that is all about all the different options you have when it comes to international shipping. So again, this is not something I can really go through in detail in this video. But basically, what you need to do before you actually select a shipping profile is decide on your pricing strategy. And pricing is right below that here. So what you need to do is decide what is the total price that you need to get for these posters to make the profit that you want to make. Once you arrive at that total price, then decide whether you want to charge that total price with free shipping or reduce that price and charge separately for shipping. So basically, it doesn't matter what you charge for shipping. It can be free, can be the exact amount that they're going to charge you on Printify for shipping, or anything in between. All that matters is what is the total price that you need to get the profit that you want. And I recommend using an Etsy fee calculator to figure that out, because you want to factor in how much you're going to, lose to the Etsy fees. And then of course, you're going to also want to go look at competition for these types of prints on physical products, because you don't really want to be publishing a listing that is, $10 more expensive than everybody else, because that's not going to be a competitive price that'll help you make sales. So now that you know how to figure out what your shipping strategy is going to be, that's going to determine what you ultimately do here. If this is the first poster listing you've created, it's okay to use the option of automatically assigning a new shipping profile, because you need to have a shipping profile for posters anyway, so you might as well let Printify create one. But then you're going to want to adjust it to whatever that strategy you decide on. All right, so once you set those prices, keep scrolling down, and then we can go to the variant visibility here and our options to publish. If you want to publish this as a draft to your Etsy shop and not actually have it be a live listing yet, you can select hide in store here. If you don't select that, it will get published as a live listing that's visible to your customers immediately. If you know you're going to want to take a little time to make some changes to it before you publish it, then select hide in store. For variant visibility, this is a subject that could be a little confusing. So what I personally like to do, as long as the options that I've selected are all showing as available and in stock, which they actually show right up here under inventory. When you were doing your pricing up here, it will tell you whether all these options are in stock or not. What I like to do is just the first option here, show all variants available for purchase. Printify does not make automatic updates to the stock status of product variants in your listings. So you will have to manually go back and update those and republish your listings later. So I just like to publish it with all the information right out of the gate, as long as everything is in stock. And that way it just all comes through correctly. And if something goes out of stock later on, I will have to go manually change it. But that's the case no matter what. You always have to manually make changes to your stock status if you're using Printify after you've published a listing. All right, we're ready to hit that green publish button, which is most likely right behind my head in the bottom right corner of the screen. You should see save as draft or publish. If you're done with this and ready to go ahead, then hit publish. It will show as a gray publishing indicator there at the top for probably anywhere from a minute to 3 or 4 minutes, depending on sort of how busy Printify's system is. So it updates to that green publish status, indicating it successfully was pushed to your Etsy shop. And within a minute or two, you should be able to go to Etsy and refresh your listings page. And now you will see that listing come through. All right, now when that listing comes through to your Etsy shop, go ahead and click on the listing to open it, and we will finalize the listing. So here you're going to want to just scroll through, make sure everything is good. If you had additional mockups you wanted to upload, like the one we used for our digital file that we actually created, go ahead and upload those. Now, I wouldn't personally suggest using the exact same mockup as the primary thumbnail, because that will make the listings look a little bit too similar. So go ahead and just use a different one as your primary thumbnail. Of course, double check your description, make sure that everything is there. Now for price and inventory, that defaults down to our variation section. So here with a physical product, we have our variations listed out separately. Those SKU numbers that you see there, you don't want to touch those. That is what will allow orders to sync with your Printify account and be fulfilled by Printify. Order fulfillment on Printify is another separate conversation that I will link to a video or two in the description. We've got quantity set to the maximum automatically here, $9.99. There's our pricing for everything. Now, we don't need to change a whole lot here in order to finalize this listing, but I do recommend clicking on under core details. It comes through as a physical item, which is correct, but you still want to actually expand this section because the rest of these things need to be changed. Under who made it, This is not something that you personally made. So you're going to have to put another company or person. You're going to need to indicate it is a finished product, which should already be there. And then for when was it made, you want to make sure it says made to order because this is a print-on-demand product. You also, because you're saying another company made it, you're going to need to add a production partner here. So if you haven't added Printify as a production partner in your Etsy account yet, you're going to need to do that. If you already have them in there, then just click on select production partner and select Printify, and there you go, and you'll be all set. Now you can click on apply, and now that section has what it needs so that you can continue. Complete any attributes here that are relevant just like you would have before. Again, complete all of your tags. Shipping is where you're going to want to make sure it is correct. Now, if you already had a pre-built poster shipping profile, then you could have just selected that on Printify when you published and you wouldn't need to do anything else here. But because this was the first poster that we published, what we're going to want to do is edit this shipping profile to match what our strategy is. Now, again, I'm not going to be able to go through all the details of what all of this stuff means here in the shipping profile in this video, but what I want to point out is if this is the first time you've done this, what you want to do is two things. First of all, go through and make sure that you remove any countries that you do not intend to sell in, because this is going to come through with either all separate countries listed or an option called everywhere else, which means your listing shows for any customer anywhere in the world to purchase. If you don't intend to sell in any country all over the world, then you need to hit this little trash can and delete that out of there. If you only want to sell this in one country, and this, for me, it's coming from the United States, so I have to at least offer it for sale in the United States, I can delete everywhere but the United States, and that way it's not showing in search results for any other country around the world. And this is an important decision that you need to make about what your strategy is for international shipping, so check out the video I linked to in the description about international shipping options if you're not sure what you want to do. But the thing we need to make sure we update here is our price, at least our domestic price. So if you set your prices for free shipping, then change this to free shipping under the price. If your strategy is to charge something other than what the default shipping price was from Printify, then just change this price. And now I'm also going to rename this. So now I know this is my poster shipping profile. I'm going to reuse this same profile for every other poster listing I create. So now we can go ahead and click save and apply at the bottom there. And now we can scroll down to the very bottom. We can add it to a shop section if we want to. And finally, we can click on publish, which again is going to be behind my head. You're going to have either discard, preview, or publish changes. Go ahead and click on publish changes. And there you have it. That is how to create both a digital download listing and a physical product listing using print on demand for the same design in your Etsy shop. Now, if this is the first time that you're considering doing the print on demand physical product portion of this, I'm sure you have questions about the process. As I mentioned along the way, there are a lot of steps where there is more in-depth information to consider. Definitely check out the links I put in the description to other videos that go more in depth on the topics like shipping, international shipping, and things like that. It just takes a little bit more time to go through all those things in more detail. But I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know in the comments if you did find it helpful and what questions you have about either part of the process for offering both types of listings in your shop. Do me a favor and hit the like button if you did find it helpful so that YouTube can show it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe to the POD Insights channel. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.